The Deep Space Monitoring Station Omega-7, drifted silently in the void between star systems. Its massive sensor arrays swept the darkness, searching for any sign of movement in the supposedly empty sector. Chief Monitor Kenthra adjusted his position in the command chair, his 6 arms working efficiently across multiple control surfaces. The Vorthog had been assigned to this remote outpost for 3 standard cycles, and in all that time, nothing of interest had passed through their detection grid. His assistant, Yelenin, a young crystalline whose transparent body flickered with nervous energy, monitored the long-range sensors from her station. The routine was always the same: scan, analyze, report nothing, repeat. It was peaceful work, far from the political tensions that plagued the inner systems of the Galactic Coalition. Suddenly, Yelenin's crystalline form blazed with alarm colors. Her musical voice cracked with tension as she called out, "Chief Monitor, I'm detecting an anomalous energy signature at the edge of our sensor range." Kenthra's compound eyes focused on the main display screen. The readings made no sense. The energy pattern was massive, far larger than any known vessel class in the Coalition database. "Run a diagnostic on the sensors," he ordered, his voice steady despite the growing unease in his chest. "This reading is impossible." Yelenin's fingers danced across her control surface, her body now pulsing with urgent orange light. "Diagnostics complete, Chief. All systems are functioning perfectly. The signature is real, and it's moving directly toward Coalition space at incredible speed." The massive view screen shimmered and displayed the source of the anomaly. Against the star-filled backdrop of space, a dark shape emerged from the void. It was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the largest Coalition Dreadnought. The hull was scarred and battle-worn, with strange geometric patterns etched into its surface. Weapon ports lined its flanks like the teeth of some ancient predator. Kenthra felt his blood run cold as he recognized the design aesthetic. It was impossible, but the angular construction and aggressive lines were unmistakable. "Computer," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "run identification protocols on the approaching vessel." The station's artificial intelligence processed the request for several long seconds. When the results appeared on screen, both officers stared in shocked silence. The words glowed ominously against the black background. Classification, unknown. Design, origin, human. Warning, all human vessels are presumed destroyed. This reading may indicate system malfunction. Yelenin's crystalline body turned a pale blue with fear. "Chief, that's impossible. The humans were wiped out 7 years ago during the purification campaign. Every human world was sterilized. Their entire species is extinct." Kenthra stared at the approaching ship, memories of the war flooding back. He had been just a junior technician during the conflict, but everyone in the galaxy knew the stories. Humanity had been deemed too dangerous to exist. Their rapid expansion, their refusal to submit to Coalition authority, their terrifying adaptability in warfare had marked them for extinction. The combined fleets of 47 species had descended upon human space like an unstoppable tide. The war had lasted 3 years. 3 years of the most brutal fighting the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships that should have been easily destroyed somehow managed to take down vessels 10 times their size. Human soldiers who should have surrendered, after overwhelming defeats, instead fought to the last being, often taking dozens of Coalition troops with them. Every human colony had to be bombed from orbit because ground invasion proved too costly. And now, 7 years after the last human world had been reduced to radioactive ash, A ship bearing human design characteristics was approaching their station. Open. Emergency channels to Coalition Command, Kenthra ordered. Priority Alpha encryption. Tell them we have a code black situation in Sector 77. Before Yelenin could comply, the communication system crackled to life on its own. A voice emerged from the speakers, speaking the common galactic language, but with an accent that sent chills down every Coalition citizen's spine. It was the human accent, impossible to mistake. Omega-7 Monitoring Station. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran vessel Independence. Please do not be alarmed by our approach. We come seeking dialogue, not conflict. Kenthra's 6 hands trembled as he reached for the communication controls. Impossible vessel, this is Chief Monitor, Kenthra. Your identification is incorrect. All human vessels were destroyed in the purification campaign. State your true origin and intent. A sound came through the speakers that made every being on the station freeze in terror. It was laughter, human laughter, soft, almost amused, but carrying an undertone that spoke of hidden strength and unimaginable determination. Chief Monitor. Kenthra, the voice replied. Reports of humanity's extinction have been greatly exaggerated. We have returned to reclaim our place in this galaxy. I suggest you contact your superiors immediately. They're going to want to know that the children of Earth have come home. The communication ended, leaving the station in stunned silence. On the main screen, the massive human warship continued its approach, and now Kenthra could see smaller vessels emerging from its shadow. Dozens of them, all bearing the distinctive angular lines of human engineering. Yelenin's voice was barely audible as she checked her instruments. Chief, I'm detecting multiple energy signatures throughout the sector. They're not alone. There are more ships out there, hundreds of them, all moving toward Coalition space. Kenthra stared at the display in growing horror. This wasn't just one surviving human ship. This was a fleet. Somehow, impossibly, humanity had survived the purification campaign, and they were returning in force as he reached for the emergency communication panel to warn Coalition Command. One thought echoed through his mind. The galaxy was about to change forever, and he wasn't sure any of them were prepared for what was coming. Asterisk memories of War Admiral Zarathkel stood in the command center of the Coalition. Defense station orbiting the capital world of Nexus Prime. His reptilian features were etched with lines of worry as he reviewed the emergency transmission from Omega-7 around him. Officers from a dozen different species worked frantically at their stations, but the atmosphere was thick with barely controlled panic. Bring up the human war archives, Zarathkel commanded his aide. A nervous insectoid named Click-Click, whose antennae twitched with anxiety. I want to review everything we know about their capabilities. The main holographic display shimmered, and filled with historical data from 7 years past. Images of human worlds appeared first, blue and green planets teeming with life, massive orbital stations, and cities that stretched across entire continents. Then came the fleet compositions, battle reports, and casualty statistics that had haunted Coalition military leaders for years. Sir, Click-Click chittered nervously. The initial assessment suggested humans were a minor threat. Their technology was inferior to ours. Their ships were smaller, and their numbers were limited. The High Council classified them as a Class C species, suitable for integration or elimination with minimal resources. Zarathkel's eyes narrowed as he studied the early battle reports. That assessment was the greatest military intelligence failure in galactic history. Look at these numbers, Click-Click. The Battle of Kepler Station. We sent 50 ships to destroy a human mining facility defended by 3 patrol vessels. 3. The hologram displayed the aftermath of that engagement. Debris fields where coalition ships had once been. Human vessels that had somehow survived impossible odds through sheer tactical brilliance and desperate courage. The final tally showed 7 coalition ships destroyed, 15 heavily damaged, and the human defenders still holding their position when reinforcements arrived. The humans fought like no species we had ever encountered, Zorothkel continued, his voice heavy with old pain. They refused to surrender even when facing certain death. They turned civilian vessels into weapons. They sacrificed themselves to save others without hesitation. Every battle taught us that we had underestimated them catastrophically. Click's compound eyes focused on a particular battle report. Sir, this shows the siege of the human colony on Terra Nova. We surrounded the planet with 200 ships and demanded surrender. The humans responded by launching every civilian transport they had directly at our fleet. Most were destroyed, but 17 of them were packed with explosives and caused significant damage. The Admiral nodded grimly. They called it the civilian fleet gambit. Every human transport, every cargo hauler, every pleasure craft became a potential weapon in their hands. They had no formal military doctrine that prepared us for such tactics. They improvised, adapted, and turned every disadvantage into a weapon. The display shifted to show footage from the Battle of New Geneva, one of the largest engagements of the war. Coalition forces had assembled over 400 ships to assault the heavily fortified human world. The humans had barely 60 vessels to defend with, but they had prepared their planet like no world in galactic history. Watch this, click, Zorothkel said, pointing to the tactical overlay. Every asteroid in the system had been hollowed out and turned into a weapons platform. Every satellite was armed. They had placed nuclear mines throughout their own orbital space, willing to irradiate their planet to stop us. And when we finally broke through their defenses, the hologram showed coalition landing forces meeting resistance unlike anything in their experience. Human civilians fought alongside professional soldiers. Children threw improvised explosives at armored vehicles. Elderly humans operated anti-aircraft weapons from hospital rooftops. Every building was a fortress, every street a killing ground. The siege lasted 8 months, Zorothkel said quietly. 8 months to take one human world. We lost 30,000 troops and had to bomb half the planet into rubble just to secure the major cities. And even then, human resistance fighters continued to operate in the ruins for another year. Click's antennae drooped as he processed the data, sir. These casualty ratios are staggering. For every human killed, we lost an average of 12 coalition personnel. How did they achieve such effectiveness with inferior technology? The Admiral pulled up another file, this one containing psychological profiles compiled during the war. It wasn't their technology, click. It was their mindset. Humans possess something that most species in the coalition have forgotten. They fight not just for survival, but for ideals. They would die for concepts like freedom and independence that many of us consider abstract luxuries. The display showed intercepted human communications from the final days of Earth itself. Messages between human commanders coordinating. Desperate last stands. Civilians volunteering for suicide missions. Scientists working to develop new weapons, even as coalition bombs fell around their laboratories. They never stopped innovating, Zorothkel continued. Every defeat taught them new tactics. Every casualty made them more determined. By the end of the war, they were fielding weapons and strategies that our best military theorists couldn't counter effectively. A priority communication alert interrupted his review. The face of General Vextoth, the coalition's supreme military commander, appeared on the secondary screen. The old Saurian's expression was grim as he spoke. "Admiral Zorothkel, I've reviewed the report from Omega 7. How certain are we that these are actually human vessels?" "General, the energy signatures match archived human ship designs perfectly. The communication used human linguistic patterns and cultural references. Unless this is an elaborate deception by another species, we must assume that humanity has somehow survived the purification campaign." General Vextoth was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of terrible realization. "Admiral, if humans have survived for 7 years in the deep void and have now returned with a fleet of this size, we must assume they have spent that time preparing for this moment. Everything we know about human psychology suggests they will not have forgotten what was done to their homeworld." The implications hit Zorothkel like a physical blow. "General, you're suggesting this isn't just a return, this is revenge." "Admiral, I'm suggesting that the galaxy is about to face a human species that has been forged by 7 years of exile, hatred, and the singular focus of avenging their dead world. The humans we fought before were defending their homes and families. The humans approaching us now have nothing left to lose and everything to prove." As if summoned by their conversation, another priority alert flashed across the display. Reports were flooding in from monitoring stations across Coalition space. Human ships were emerging from the deep void in dozens of sectors simultaneously. The pattern was clear and terrifying. This wasn't a random return. This was a coordinated operation, planned and executed with precision that spoke of years of careful preparation. Zorothkel stared at the tactical display showing human fleets converging on Coalition space from multiple directions. Each fleet was substantial, composed of vessels ranging from massive dreadnoughts to swift attack craft. But what truly frightened him was the organization. The humans weren't fleeing refugees returning home. They were an invasion force with a plan. "Click, click," he said quietly. "Send word to all Coalition fleets. Priority Alpha mobilization. And send a message to the High Council. The humans are back. And I don't think they're interested in negotiating our surrender. Asterisk."